Hello friends, in this video we are going to continue with our discussion on constructors, and we are going to cover a lot of important topics related to constructors. So let's start. First topic we'll see is type of constructors. Okay. Second topic is we'll look at constructor overloading, and the third topic is the this keyword. So these three topics we are going to see in detail. First, types of constructors. So there are three types of constructors. First one is the default constructor, second one is the non-parameterized constructor, and third one is the parameterized constructor. Okay. Yesterday we understood what is the meaning of constructor. Whenever we create an object, okay, we are in fact calling the constructor, isn't it? So for example, in this line I am creating obj1, okay, by using this new operator. After the new operator we have this bank1, which if you notice is the class name. Okay. So as soon as this bank1, as soon as this object is created, okay, the constructor should be there. Okay. And we have already seen how the constructor looks like. The constructor has the same name, isn't it? So if I put a constructor here, I write like this: bank1 parenthesis and then a pair of curly brackets. So here this is my constructor. Okay. Now whenever this new bank1 is executed, control transfers to the bank1 constructor. But what if this constructor is not there? If I remove it, okay, then this call to the constructor will go where? We don't have a constructor. Okay. So will this result in an error? No, it will not, because the constructor, the default constructor is inserted by the compiler itself, so that this situation does not occur. Okay, so that the compiler does not get confused where the constructor is. So the default constructor looks like this. Okay, although we cannot see it because it is inserted by the compiler, but the default constructor will look like this. Okay, and this default constructor has no parameters, and its body is also empty. Okay, so no parameters and empty body. This is the characteristics of a default constructor which is inserted by the compiler. So we can say that the default constructor ensures that the object is successfully created. Okay, if the default constructor is not there, what will happen? The call will be made. When we create an object of the class, the call will be made to the constructor, but that constructor will not be present. Okay, so that is the reason why compiler puts a default constructor. I hope this point is clear. Okay, now let's talk about, okay, so let's see the output of this, which has got no constructor put by the programmer. Okay, there is no constructor here. So let's compile this and see what happens. So it successfully compiles, there is no error, and we get the output also. Okay, the output is null, name is null, balance is 0, account is also 0. This is the second object, its name is also null, balance is 0 and account is also 0. So in the main function, okay, come to the main function first. We created an object obj1 and then we created an object obj2. Now using obj1 I am calling the display function. So what will happen when I call the display function? The control will come to this display function and it will display the name, balance and account number associated with obj1, because obj1 is the calling object, okay. And then when the control returns back to the main function, line number 23 will execute, and this time obj2 dot display, this time obj2 calls the display function. So again the transfer is controlled here. This time the name, balance and account number of obj2 gets displayed. So both will display the default values, that is 0, null and 0. Now let's see non-parameterized constructor. Now we'll see the example related to non-parameterized constructor, okay, non-parameterized constructor. So here I've got this class bank2, okay. In this you can see bank2 is the class name, and here I've got the constructor. You can easily identify the constructor because of the method declaration here, okay. Method means special method, okay, which doesn't have a return type, and it is its name is same as that of the class. So constructors you can easily identify. Now in this constructor I am defining the name of the value of the instance variable name and also that of the balance, okay. Any object that is created, okay, its name will be Tommy and its balance will be 500, okay. So let's come to the main function and follow the program systematically, because you know that the main function is the first function that will get executed, okay. The constructor, all the functions, they cannot work until the main function starts, okay, because main function is the driver function. It's the engine of this program, okay. Now we need to understand what's happening in the main function and then follow the statements in a sequential manner. So in the main function, the first line we are creating an object obj1, okay, of bank2 type. So this class, our class name is bank2. We are creating an object obj1, okay. This obj1, when it gets created, the constructor is called, and the name of obj1 will be Tommy and the balance will be 500. Then control comes to line number 22, obj2 is created, okay, and again the constructor is called, and the name will be assigned with Tommy and balance will be again 500. Same thing goes for obj3, okay. So in the memory we'll have three different objects, obj1, obj2 and obj3, and each of these objects will have their own copy of name and balance. So after the execution of 21, line number 21, 22 and 23, all these objects are created, and the constructor will be called, and the constructor will assign the values Tommy and 500 to balance, to name and balance. Okay. Okay, so now after that, line number 25 calls the display function, using obj1, okay. So when we call the display function, the control comes to the display function, and the name, the value of name and balance inside obj1 is printed. So it will print Tommy and 500. Then again control comes back to the main function, then line number 26 is executed. So this time we are calling the display function using obj2. So this time the display function is called again, and the name and balance of obj2 will be displayed, because the calling object is obj2. So in this object also the value of name is Tommy and the balance is 500, okay. And then control comes back to the main function, and line number 27 is executed, and again the display function is called, and this time name and balance will be printed from the obj3 object, okay. So this one also has Tommy and 500 as the values of name and balance. So this non-parameterized constructor is just like the default constructor. The only difference is that the default constructor will not have any statement inside the body of the constructor, whereas this non-parameterized constructor will have some statements inside the body of the constructor written by the programmer, okay. But here in this example, okay, first of all let us see the output. Here you can see all the three objects, obj1, obj2 and obj3. The name is same and the balance is also same. So this constructor is not very useful, okay. This constructor is not very useful. So we should have a it's not necessary that every customer of the bank will have the same name, isn't it? It might be different name, it might be same name also, but there must be flexibility so that the correct name can be stored, okay. So in this case our constructor is not giving that facility, okay. That can be obtained by using a parameterized constructor, okay. So now we have seen the default constructor, example of default constructor. We have seen the example of non-parameterized constructor, and now we are going to see an example of a parameterized constructor, okay. So here our class name is bank3, and here you can see bank3 constructor is there. Now this time the constructor parameters is not blank, so therefore it is known as a parameterized constructor, okay. When you have got parameters inside the parenthesis of the constructor, that is known as a parameterized constructor, okay. Here whenever, let's come to the main function, okay. In the main function you can see that again I am creating three objects, obj1, obj2 and obj3, and this time when the constructor is called, notice I am passing the required data, because this time the constructor needs a string data as well as a double data. So whenever the object is created, I need to provide this data, okay, both. So when this obj1 is created, this Tommy is passed to S and this 500 is passed to B, and that Tommy will be assigned to name. Whose name? It will be obj1's name. Okay, in obj1 the name will contain Tommy, and the balance instance variable, okay, the balance instance variable will be assigned with the value of B. So B is 500, okay. Similarly, when obj2 is created, I am passing Lisa and 1000. So this time again Lisa is passed to S and 1000 is passed to B, and the name here will belong to obj2, isn't it, because the object here is obj2. So obj2, its name will store Lisa this time, and balance instance variable of obj2 will store 1000. Then obj3 is created. obj3 is created, okay, and this time I am passing Pepsi and 2000. So name this Pepsi will be stored in S and this 2000 will be copied to B, okay. So Pepsi will be assigned to obj3's name and 2000 will be assigned to obj3's balance, okay. So here the name is Pepsi and the balance is 2000. So let's see the output now. Here you can see the output is quite different from the last time. What was the output last time? Last time the output was all the three objects, their name was Tommy and the balance was 500. But this time you can see that the first object is Tommy, balance is 500. Next object name is Lisa and the balance is 1000, and obj3's name is Pepsi and the balance is 2000. Okay. So having parameterized constructor is very useful. Now you may get a doubt here that if we make an object of the bank3 class, and this time let's name it as obj4, okay, and this time I will not pass any parameters. I will not pass any parameters, okay. So focus on this line. I have created obj4 and I am not passing any parameters inside the constructor. What will happen? Do you think the default constructor will get executed? Well, let me tell you that the default constructor is not created now. Why? Because as soon as the programmer inserts a constructor that may be parameterized or not parameterized, okay. So as soon as the programmer inserts any kind of constructor, in this case I've inserted a parameterized constructor, so the compiler will not add a default constructor, and hence you are getting this error here, okay. The error is what? Let's have a look. The error is constructor bank3 in class bank3 cannot be applied to given type. Why it cannot be applied? It cannot be applied because the requirement is the requirement is that the constructor requires a string and double value, but found what? No arguments. Okay, required was string and a double, but the compiler didn't find any arguments. Okay, and finally it is showing the reason that actual and formal argument lists differ in length. That means there is no match between the actual parameters and the formal parameters. The formal parameters is expecting 2 arguments, but here we are providing 0 arguments. So there is a mismatch. Okay. So remember this point, whenever you insert a constructor, the compiler will not insert any constructor. Okay. So to solve this kind of problem, what we can do is we can create a blank. Let's create a blank constructor, okay, with no parameters. So bank 3, open parenthesis, close parenthesis, then open curly brackets, close curly brackets. This time, so focus here, I've created a blank constructor which resembles this constructor call. Okay, so when I compile, I do not get the error anymore. Okay, and when I call obj4 dot display, what will happen? Well, this time the output will be again null and 0, because we did not assign any value to obj4's num and balance. So let's have a look at the output. As you can see, obj1, obj2, obj3, their output is same as before, and now at last we have obj4's name and balance, which is null and 0, the default values. So if you want, we can provide a default name. We can provide a default name also, that so that whenever the object is created without any arguments, some name is there. Okay, so let's choose a name here. Let's call it Fanta. Okay, and its balance is let's say the default balance is 200. So this time when I compile and execute this, so here you can see the name is Fanta and the balance is 200. Okay, and by the way, I am using these names Pepsi and Fanta, and I am not sponsoring them. Okay, please do not think that I am sponsoring them. Actually, you should not drink these cold drinks, it's not good for health. So that's a disclaimer. So we are done with types of constructors. Now let's discuss constructor overloading. Okay, constructor overloading, and you already have seen method overloading. So constructor overloading is very similar to method overloading or function overloading. In case of function overloading, we had one or more functions with the same name but different parameters with different signature. Okay, so similarly the same rule applies for constructor overloading also. So let's see an example here. I've created this class Polygon. Okay, and here you can see that there is one instance variable name, okay, of string type, and this time how many constructors do I have here? See, look, this is the first constructor, isn't it? Because class name, the class name and this special method name is same. Again, the class name is Polygon, so here you can see another Polygon. Okay, and here you can see yet another polygon. So how many polygons do we have here? We have 3 polygons. Okay, that means we have overloaded the constructor. Okay, we have overloaded by having different number of arguments or different type of arguments, or the order should be different. Same rules as function overloading. Okay, so here the number of parameters are different. In this first constructor I've got 3 parameters, in this second constructor I've got 4 parameters, in this third constructor I have got 5 constructors. Okay, so if we create, now let's come to the main function here. Let's come to the main function and see what's happening. We are creating an object P1, okay, of polygon type. This time we are passing 3 numbers here. That means this is going to match with this first constructor here, isn't it? The first constructor has got 3 arguments. So this particular constructor will be called, and triangle will be assigned, the name triangle will be assigned to P1's name. Okay, so P1's name, it will store triangle. Similarly, I've got a second object P2 here, and this time I am passing 4 arguments. Therefore this second polygon, this second constructor is called, and what will happen? It will get the name, it's P2's name. P2's name will store quadrilateral. And then finally I create one more object P3, and this time I pass 4 arguments here, sorry 5 arguments. So what will happen? P3 will be created, and in its name pentagon will be assigned. So here P3's instance variable name will contain pentagon. So after that I call the display function, okay, using P1, P2 and P3. That means the control will be transferred to this display function each time when the functions are called. Okay, and what will happen? First time this display will display P1's, it will display P1's name. Second time it will display P2's name, because P2 is the calling object here, and the last time it will display P3's name, okay, because P3 is the calling object. So let's have a look at the output. Here you can see type of polygon is, first one is triangle, second one is quadrilateral, and third one is pentagon. So notice that here we have P1 dot display, P2 dot display, and P3 dot display. So the name will be it will be triangle, quadrilateral and pentagon respectively for all those 3 objects. Now let's create one more object here, just so that we can see another example. Okay, so polygon P4 is equal to new polygon, and this time I pass let's say 4 arguments, 1, 2, 3 and 4. I have passed 4 arguments, and this time I will call P4 dot display, P4 dot display. Okay, so what will happen? So you can see P1 is a triangle, P2 is a quadrilateral, P3 is a pentagon, and P4 is a quadrilateral because we provided 4 arguments. So I hope you have understood the concept of constructor overloading. Finally, let us discuss the this keyword. Okay, what is this keyword? Okay, let's see the program. Okay, so let's understand the definition of this keyword. Okay, this keyword holds the address of the current calling object. Okay, now a function is called and a constructor is also called, isn't it? Constructor is called when an object is created, and a function is called when the programmer wants to. Okay, in both the cases the function and the constructor have access to this keyword, which stores the reference of the current calling object. Okay, what does that mean? So for the moment, let's remove the constructor here. Okay, let's remove this. The constructor is removed, and we will remove the parameters from here so that the default constructor is called. Okay, now pay attention here. I will assign values to t1's length and t1's breadth. Okay, so when I say t1 dot length is equal to 1, or let's say 2, and t1's dot breadth is equal to 3. Okay, now the same thing I'll do for t2's length and breadth. I will assign let's say 4 and 5. Okay, now if you see the output for this, will be what? 6 and 20, isn't it? Because when we are calling t1 dot area, when we call t1 dot area, control comes to this area function, and here there is length and here there is breadth. Now whose length and whose breadth are we talking about? Are we talking about t1's length or t2's length, or t2's breadth or t1's breadth? How is that decided? That is decided, first of all, t1 is the calling function here. Okay, so it will be t1's length and t1's breadth, not any other object. Okay, and the function here has the address of the current calling object in this keyword. Okay, I can write here this dot length, and here also I can write this dot breadth. This keyword stores the address of t1. That means when t1 is calling the function area, this keyword refers to t1. That means we want t1's length, and here it will be t1's breadth. That's why the output for this is 6, because t1's length is 2 and t1's breadth is 3. So let's have a look at the output here. You can see the output is same. It is 6 and 20. Similarly, when t2 is calling the area function, this keyword, okay, it will have t2's reference, and this keyword here also will have t2's reference. So t2's length has got 4 and t2's breadth has got 5. So 4 into 5 will be 20. So this is the definition of this keyword. It stores the address of the current calling object. Okay, so the same thing applies in the case of constructor also. So let's bring back our constructor here. Okay, so our constructor is back, our parameterized constructor is back. Okay, the constructor, see the class name and the name here is same, so therefore it's a constructor, and there is no return type. Okay, so it has got two parameters of double type. So whenever I create the object for test class, I will have to pass two arguments. So first time I am passing 3 and 4. Okay, first time I am passing 3 and 4, and second time I am passing 5 and 6. So here this 3 will be copied to length and this 4 will be copied to breadth. Okay, and from here 3 will be going to length, okay, and 4 will be the value 4 which is stored in breadth will be going to breadth. Will it get stored in the instance variable? What do you think? See here, this length and this breadth, it's a local variable, local to the constructor, it's not accessible outside. Okay, and here I've got two instance variables by the same name. So after creating the objects with 3, 4 length breadth and 5, 6 length breadth, when I call T1 area, T1 dot area and T2 dot area, we expect that the output should be 12 and 30, isn't it, because length into breadth. But you may be surprised that the output for this will be 0. As you can see here, the output is 0. Why is this happening? This is happening because when we assign the value of length, when we assign the value of length to length and the value of breadth to breadth, okay, this length and breadth is not referring to this length and breadth, because preference is always given to the local variable first. Preference is given to the local variable first. If there are two variables, one is an instance variable and one is a local variable, both having the same name, then inside the scope, when we refer to that name, the preference will be given to the local variable. Okay, so what's happening here? We are taking the value of this length. Okay, we are taking the value of this length and we are assigning it to the same length only. And here also we are taking the value of this breadth, this one, and we are assigning it to the same breadth, and thereby this length and this breadth, the instance variables, they remain 0. So when I call the area function by writing T1 dot area, control comes here. Length is what? T1's length will be 0 and T1's breadth will also be 0. So 0 into 0 is going to give you 0. Similarly, T2's, when next time in the next line I call the area function again using T2, this time again T2's length is 0, T2's breadth is also 0, so 0 into 0 is 0. So therefore both the times we get 0 as the output. So how can we solve this problem? As I told you earlier, that both the function and the constructor, they have access to the keyword this, and this refers to the current calling object. So therefore if I write here this dot length and if I write here this dot breadth, what do you think is going to happen? So you might have guessed it correctly. See, this length is of course referring to the local variable, and this breadth is also referring to this local variable, but this length this time round it's not referring to the local variable, because clearly we are trying to access the object's length. This will refer to the object's length, and whose object? So here when this object is getting created T1, So it will be T1's length, and when we create, okay, and the breadth also, this one will be T2's breadth, okay. And when we create the second object T2, this time this length again will be the local variable, breadth again will be the local variable, but this dot length and this dot breadth, this refers to T2's length and T2's breadth, okay. So this time the output should be 12 and 30. So let's have a look. So as you can see, 12 and 30 is the output. So this keyword can also be used to resolve conflict between instance variables and local variables. So I hope you have understood the concept of this keyword. So in this video we discussed quite a few number of topics. First we discussed type of constructors, okay, and then we saw constructor overloading, and then finally we saw this keyword. So I hope you have understood all these concepts. So I'll stop here. Thank you.